I know we're sitting here for only an hour. But I would encourage you, we use the word practice because that's what this is. It's a practice. And you don't need to really sit for a whole hour. In your daily lives, like over the weekend, for example, we won't be meeting, but you may have other practices. But just 15 minutes of starting the day by simply sitting and breathing, it can have a tremendous effect in the way in which your day unfolds. Isn't it ironic? I was just thinking today how the busier we are, the more stressed we are, the more challenges that we face in our lives, the less time we feel we have to meditate. And for many of us, meditation, sitting, breathing, perhaps we don't have to use the word meditation. Let's call it sitting and breathing. Aligning ourselves. We see it as something we do with our spare time. But one of my teachers put it very beautifully. What she said is that you do not have time not to meditate. And she put it in this way. Imagine your day as you would a journey that you had to make, 100-mile journey. Now, if you had 100-mile journey to make, you would need some mode of transport, whether it's the keys to your car, whether it was your car or your travel card, money to buy a ticket. And so just imagine you had a journey to make, and it was a long journey, and you were looking for your keys. And if you don't drive, that's fine. If you were looking for your purse, your wallet, your travel card, and you couldn't find it. Now, most of us, what would we do? We would patiently keep looking. We would keep looking for the car keys until we found it, because we know that by beginning the journey on foot, 100-mile journey could take hours and hours and hours and tire us out. And then coming back as well would add to that journey. And so we wouldn't start the journey until we find our car keys, until we find our wallets, our purses, our travel cards. Now, this teacher of mine, she said meditation is as important as the car key, as important as that travel card. Before you embark on your journey through your day, find the keys, sit, breathe, align yourself, enter into the space of stillness. And it would transform the way in which the day unfolds. Your reactions will be different. And there is so much more that I would like to say about this, but we'll leave it at that. I thought it was a very beautiful illustration of how important this practice is, how much it can actually serve us. And I'm sure many of you have heard of a teacher called Deepak Chopra. And I always laugh how he and Wayne Dyer are friends. Wayne Dyer is another teacher who recently passed away. And Wayne Dyer would say, every time I have a problem with one of my children, because he has 6 children, divorced twice, had cancer, had pretty much all the problems most of us go through. He said, every time I called Deepak Chopra to ask him to help me with a problem, Deepak Chopra would have the same answer. Just sit and meditate, and it will solve itself, or you will find the solution. And so whatever challenges we experience, it may not actually make sense that meditation will bring about a solution, but once you've reached the point where you have nothing to lose, give it a shot. And at this point, let's begin exploring the tools that will allow us to step outside of our mind into the present moment. I will ring the bell. And this time, begin inhabiting your body more fully than you've ever inhabited it before. We've had so many different changes in the weather patterns. Experience what your skin experiences today, at this moment, not 5 minutes ago, not 1 hour ago, not even later today, but right now at this moment. And here comes the bell. Begin with those exposed areas of skin around your body, including your face, your arms, your neck. Just in case you were wondering, my reason for asking you to do this is simply because the senses are our doorways into the present moment. And this present moment, it takes you out of your mind, which almost always exists in the past or in the future. So let go of all those tasks you've been busy with this morning, all those conversations, even the conversations that we had, even those words that I've been uttering over the last few minutes. Let go of all of that and begin inhabiting your body so that you begin experiencing these doorways into this very precious moment called the now. A moment in time that is eternal. And I say it's eternal because it is always the present moment. In 1 minute, in 1 month, in 1 year, it will arrive as the present moment. Activating the surfaces around your arms, the hairs, the way in which the skin interacts with the air. Today is a new day. This moment is a new moment. Perhaps heightening the sensitivity of your skin to such a level that you're even able to detect the air as it brushes against your skin. It's a little bit easier if you have a fan or an air conditioner, or your windows are open, or you're outside and there's some breeze. And even if you're indoors, then perhaps if you don't experience anything, just the numbness, the stillness of the air, that in itself is an experience. Be aware that you are breathing. Because around the edges of the nostril, that's one area where every single one of us for certain will be experiencing movement in the air. Can you feel how the air it enters into the nostrils? How as you exhale and as you breathe out, it flows outward. You can let go of the sensations all in those other areas, those other parts of the body, and just simply begin directing your attention to the skin and in the upper lip, just below the exit point of the nostril. And then the skin within the nasal passage. And being interested in the sensations. It's not very complicated, because sometimes the mind likes to complicate things and turn this into a very boring exercise. It tries to reason out what the breath is and give all sorts of labels to the breathing process. But all we are interested in is just simple sensations. I breathe in. What's the temperature of the air that I breathe in? Which surfaces within the nasal passage can I experience this air that I breathe in at this moment? And I've never really observed the point at which the in-breath converts itself into an out-breath. Let me do that today. Let me do that now. Watching and noticing that exact point when it converts from an in-breath into an out-breath. Does it happen immediately? Is there a pause? Is it a long pause or a short pause? And as the breath flows outward, what's its temperature now? At what speed does this breath flow down and out? It feels different. The air feels more humid, more vivid, brushing against the upper lip as it leaves through the nostrils. And then you shine the spotlight on the mind, because right now the spotlight is on the nostrils within the nasal passage. You're experiencing all the sensations you can experience here, your doorway into the present moment. Now it's time for the movie. The mind, its images. Where is it? It makes it a lot more lighthearted when you call it a movie. Because we all know what it's like to watch a movie. It's very easy to get sucked into the story. You begin to identify when you watch a movie or a TV program, especially one that you're quite keen on. You begin to identify with certain characters. You begin to identify with the emotions that the character feels: anger, happiness, sadness, joy. You laugh, you cry, you feel all sorts of different emotions. Hypnotized, depending on how good the actor, the actress is. But then there's the comfort of knowing that you are the observer. If I don't like the movie, if it gets too scary, if I get too upset, I can just stand up and leave. If you're at home, you can press the stop button, you can change the channel. If you're at the cinema, you could just stand up, walk out of the cinema. And in many ways, that's what we're learning how to do with the mind. Because for far too long, we have identified ourselves with our mind. What is the mind? It's made up of many individual thoughts. Thoughts which are a result of experiences. Our environment, our parents, our families, our siblings, everything that you've experienced. Resulting in individual threads. Thoughts are like individual threads, different colors, different textures. And then after we repeatedly think certain thoughts, we keep repeatedly thinking them over and over again. And then they turn into pieces of cloth, tapestries. We sew them together, and then they become beliefs. And now the beliefs, they are tricky because it's what we believe. This is good, this is bad. And I think you know what I mean when it comes to beliefs. Everything is a belief. Almost everything is a belief. Some of these beliefs they're not true. For example, if yesterday we spoke about this in yesterday's session, how each one of us is very special and very unique. And there was a Swiss scientist, a sociologist of some sort. He took a class of children, quite a large class of children, and he devised different types of tests. So first he might have given them a test on maths or science or something like that. And a proportion of the students did extremely well, and a proportion did very badly. And then he devised a second test for the same group on music. A different group excelled, and a different group was at the bottom. And then there was a different test on art, a different form of art. And a completely new set of children excelled, and a completely new set did very poorly. So in your childhood, in my childhood, how many teachers, how many parents, how many family members, the media, what standards did they set for us? They created the standards which they tried to measure us against. And if they used the wrong measuring tool, some of us might simply grow up believing that we're less than good. We might even be stupid or a lost cause. And those become our beliefs. We truly believe that about ourselves. We're not here to judge what's good, what's bad. We're not here to come to any conclusion. I'm not asking you to dig into your past. It's a lot more simple than that. We're going to simply step outside of all of these beliefs, all of these thoughts, into this present moment. And that's what we've started doing. So that space is created, distance is created between ourselves, this self who is able to witness, watch, observe, and that movie that's going on in the screen. Whatever your role is in that movie, doesn't it feel good to be able to step outside of that movie? If your whole identity, everything that you've accumulated up until this moment is in that movie, and everything outside of that movie, it may sound like a boring place, but that's only because words are so limited in describing it. It's where kindness is, this space where we observe from. It's where an infinite amount of kindness is. It's where there is clarity, that clarity we spoke of. Because you no longer have judgments as to what's good or what's bad. Whose judgments are they anyway? We're not here to get to the bottom of that. But there is clarity. And then, in that clarity, we can notice all the different characters, all the heroes, all the villains in that movie called The Mind. The heroes, if you like that word, although sometimes villains are more interesting. Yes, I know that. But some of these thoughts, some of these beliefs will bring hope, optimism, enthusiasm, passion, smiles and laughter. And as we learn how to step outside of our thoughts, we begin to also learn how that we have the ability to focus on those parts that will bring these smiles, that will bring this hope, that will bring this kindness. Because there is clarity. And so I bring you back to your breath, this tool that is allowing us to observe the mind in this way. Which breath are you at right now? Is it the in-breath or the out-breath? Which direction? Which nasal passage? Is it the right one or the left one that is allowing the air to pass through it? For me today, it's the right one. My right nasal passage is the one that's allowing the air to move in and out. And if as you begin to watch the breath, it's fascinating to see how it switches from right to left in cycles. I bring myself back to the sensations. Every minute sensation that I can experience. And have you noticed I use the word sensation? Because in this present moment, none of these sensations have any meaning. You don't even know which breath is moving in, which one is moving out. Because in this moment, there is no such thing as memory or comparisons. You don't know what warmth is, what coolness is. It's just a sensation of the breath. But then we like to know what warmth is. We like to know what coolness is. We want to know which direction the breath is moving. And for that, we need the help of the mind. And so we call the mind to come and help us to interpret, to decipher all these different sensations. And then you see the mind, it begins to leave the movie. It begins to leave the past, leave the future and all those things you've been stressing about that haven't happened and that may never happen. It leaves all the stories and it enters and aligns itself with the skin within the nasal passage. It begins to align itself, the mind begins to align itself into the present moment. So this is how you begin to notice the humidity and the breath that leaves your nose. You begin to detect the smells. Everything that the mind has learned, it applies to this simple process called breathing. Even the direction in which the breath is flowing. It's the mind that learned what an in-breath is, what an out-breath is. And so now we're beginning to understand how the mind is a precious tool. It's not our enemy, it's our friend. And so we're not here to fight with the mind. Because almost every law of science applies to this practice. The more you fight against the mind, the more it pushes back. The more you try to fight against a particular thought, an equal amount of reaction is caused that pushes back. And then the chatter begins, the effort begins, it gets tiring. But as you breathe out, let go of the effort. Let go of the resistance and just allow. Give permission to the mind to be and do whatever it needs to do, because it's a nature. We begin to recognize that it is the nature of the mind to move. It's a lifetime of habits, after all, a lifetime of conditioning. Exploring the breath. Exploring the present moment. This breath that is always with us. A tool that is always at our disposal, always available to us when we need to tap into the present moment. I will ring the bell. And it will be an opportunity for you to stretch your body, to move your body. But today, let's, before I ring the bell, before you move, let's see if we can bring a sense of continuity to the practice. So instead of interrupting our practice, the practice continues. From this point, in fact, where it begins with impatience, perhaps, because he said he's going to ring the bell. Now, when is he going to ring the bell? Impatience. So you observe the impatience, if that's your train of thought, but you can observe it, and then your practice is a success. And then you perhaps begin scanning through your body, noticing what you're experiencing through your body, within your body. Are there any points within the body that feel uncomfortable? The back, perhaps, something about your posture, something about the way in which your legs are sitting, and pins and needles, your shoulders, your arms. You're scanning through your body to see which part would benefit from movement. Should I be changing my posture? I think I know I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And when you hear the bell, see if you can observe every movement. And right now, even as I say these words, you might have an image of your arms stretched out. You might see your body in a different posture, perhaps lying down, or your legs stretched out. And that becomes the most important thing. But this is a practice where that's just the end. You're as interested in the process of getting to that end as you are that experience of being at that end. For example, if you're going to be lying down, if you're going to be stretching your arms out, if you're going to be giving a particular part of the body a massage, the very fact that you lift your arms from the point it begins moving, you're going to be aware of the muscles involved in that movement. Perhaps even the way in which the brain sends the signals to those muscles, the cells. Most of it is almost invisible to us, but just what you can, what you're able to. Bringing a sense of continuity to the practice. We call this mindful movement. Something so relevant to every single one of us because of the amount, the proportion of time we spend in our day moving. What if every movement was an opportunity to enter into this present moment where there is stillness and clarity and kindness and everything else that could enhance our lives. Perhaps having a sip of water, actually tasting the water. What it feels like. Any sense of relief that you may be getting as a result of these movements, or the quenching of your thirst, or the flowing of the water down your throat. How simple it is to feel good. How simple it is. Whether you want the big house, or the Ferrari, or the Bentley, or that incredible holiday, or that new gadget, all so that we can just feel good. And you just felt good. At least I hope you did. It's that simple. Perhaps an indication that feeling good is already here. And we have more power than we actually believe over this tap that allows this goodness to flow out. In this part of the practice, we'll move into a visualization. Of course, just because metaphors, visualizations, they help us to understand this relationship we have with our mind, with our bodies, with the world around us a little bit better. Because sometimes it can get very philosophical, it can get very abstract, especially when we live within our minds. It's images, so real, it's voices. Whether you're projecting into the future, whether you're remembering something from the past. And also through a visualization, you begin to learn how to use your mind in a productive way. Giving it something to do, giving it something to be, so that it leaves the past behind. It releases that future that's not really relevant at this particular moment, because all the power is here in this present moment. And so today we'll bring into our mind's eye because of the beautiful weather, why don't we work on trees? Let's see a tree within our mind's eye. I don't know if you have a favorite tree. And even if you don't, an image of a tree or something from any part of your life or a postcard. Or just imagine. It's a very large tree. It's a very old tree, a very strong and stable tree. It's been here for a very long time. It has roots that dig very deep into the earth. It has certain qualities. It's a witnessing presence. It shares that part with us. It's witnessed many different seasons, many different weather patterns. It's a little bit like us, isn't it? We've had so many different experiences, each and every one of us here in this meditation room, in this virtual meditation room. We have enough stories and information to write a fascinating book. We do. But sometimes it's a little bit more, because the media tells us that this actor and that actress have achieved a certain degree of fame. Their lives are more interesting than ours, but we bring all of that back to our present selves. And just like this tree, we have had experiences that have brought us to this present moment where we sit and breathe together. And so we're grateful for these experiences, because it's a possibility that if any of these experiences were any different, we may not be here at this moment. And if you're having any glimpses of what it feels like to be good, to feel better, to feel at peace, then it's worth it. Because this is the present moment. And let's merge our bodies into this image of the tree. Feel your arms becoming the branches of this great tree. And just like the trunk and the branches, they have so many, especially when it's been here for this long, when it has this wisdom. It has so many different textures, depth, unique features. And so our faces, our heads, our hair merging into this image. You feel the stability through your trunk. You feel the points of contact between your body and the surfaces underneath you. And if you have a slightly cushioned surface underneath you, feel the way in which it supports your body. And if you have a slightly harder surface, notice the way in which your body molds itself to that hardness, that shape. And as you breathe out, allow that surface underneath your body to dissolve into that carpet, into that chair, into that cushion, mat, whatever it is, so that you begin to feel your roots, your center of gravity lowering itself into the earth, deep into the earth, so you feel the stability. And with the stability comes a certainty. Certainty that no matter how strong a storm arrives, nothing's going to move. There's just this deep awareness, this presence. What represents the storms? What represents the clouds and the blue skies and the stars? The mind, those individual thoughts that we spoke of, just like little droplets of rain or snow. Those different experiences we've been through, sometimes pleasant breeze, cooling, warm, pleasant breeze, sometimes stormy enough to really give our branches a shake. But then we remind ourselves that this is a practice of allowing, of clarity, of making peace with. And so just like the tree's branches, the flexible ones, the allowing ones, we dance with the wind. We welcome the wind. We allow the wind to flow through these branches, dancing in a beautiful rhythm, moving, not resisting. There's no point in resisting these winds because we have no control over them. At least very little control over them. And then there is clarity, there is stillness. But then there are some branches that are quite brittle, that don't really want to allow these changes. But that is the nature of life, isn't it? At least in this world of matter. This world of matter, everything's changing around us. Everything carbon-based, always changing form, from one form of energy to another. And so we must allow, because it is the nature of the world to change, to move. And so it's a bit easier to let go of these brittle branches. Which branches are resisting these winds? We just let go of them. And such a lot of weight is released. Weight that we no longer need, and we feel lighter, more at peace, more at ease as these breezes blow through our branches. And then there is the health, the life that we sustain, both on top of our branches, within our trunk, deep down into the roots underneath us. A little bit like the life that, actually a lot like the life that flows through our veins, that keeps our hearts beating, that keeps our lungs breathing, and all our organs functioning. Let's explore this life within us. Valuing even the roots underneath us which are not visible. There are parts within us which no one else knows about, which no one ever really needs to know. This is a path where we no longer seek approval, the approval of others, because we recognize our uniqueness, the way in which we support our place in this planet. Just like the tree, it converts carbon dioxide into oxygen simply by being. What it truly is, by nature, a tree. It supports the squirrels and the various birds, the nests, the chicks. It has flowers, it has leaves, perhaps even fruits, cones. I don't know what kind of a tree you are right now. But you can be any kind of tree that you would like to. Even a magical one with many different types of fruit, representing your many different talents, some which are just beginning to emerge. Because this is the beginning. It's always the beginning. Ages are of no relevance. There is no end, there is no middle part. Always the beginning, always the first day, always the first step, always the present moment. We still observe the winds, the storms. And sometimes the storms are so strong, the winds are so strong, we begin to mistakenly believe that they are going to carry us away. But no, we breathe. We tune back into the present moment through these doorways called our senses. We ground ourselves. We recognize the roots that flow deep into the crust of the earth, keeping us stable, unmoving, allowing. And remembering that no wind can carry us away. There is stability in this presence, this awareness, this kindness, this patience that we have tapped into. And as we center ourselves into this space, we will hear the final bell. But final only because it represents the close of this hour that we have spent together. In actual fact, it represents the beginning of this moment. And then, after this moment, the beginning of the moment after that. No need to rush through it. Just constantly being present as the day unfolds before you, hopefully like a beautiful flower, petal by petal. Noticing every stage of this blooming, treasuring every moment. And no longer waiting for the full bloom. Recognizing that there is beauty in every fold, every petal that unfolds. And then there is no need to wait. No need to wait, because it's all here. Now.